Hey everyone, it's Naomi, and in this video, I want to talk about tanks. And I want to ask a really important question and study a really important factor of Overwatch and give it a bit of a deep dive to sort of focus on something. It's occurred to me lately, perhaps more than ever, why Overwatch is as broken as it is, and I'll leave the video to which that I'm sort of responding to in the description below. But it is that tanks, there isn't enough of them. And there sure as hell isn't enough support either. Now, what does this mean for Overwatch? Well, what this means is the tanks, the people that are trying to do their damnedest to play tanks properly, are sort of let down by the DPS. And this also means that because the DPS can't pull their weight, you have, tanks that should be higher in SR, but they're not, because they're thrown into mismatched games, they're thrown into situations that they don't know how to handle, and so forth. Or, the other situation that I've encountered myself, is they know how to handle the situation, but the DPS do not. A big example of this, let me go over to Sim for a bit, is Symmetra. Symmetra is killing it right now in the ladder. Absolutely killing it. And nobody seems to want to counter her. People are saying the meta is, Sigma, Orisa, things like that. And to a degree, they're right. But you have kind of two types of people in the ladder. You have the people that want to play the meta, and then you have the people who want to cheese their way through it. And there is a lot of people that want to cheese their way through it. So what happens? Not a lot of people play tank. And when they do play tank, they don't always know how to counter the likes of Sim. Technically, this is just speaking in hypothetical terms here, Winston is a counter to Sim. Now, okay, I agree, he needs a bit of a buff. He's kind of weak to Sim at the moment. In fact, his pick rate has gone tremendously down. But Winston is a counter to Sim that nobody is using. Another one is Zarya. Zarya is really strong at the moment, and nobody uses her against Sim. They use her with Sim, which is a really weird combo, but they don't use her without Sim. With like a Reinhardt or, I mean, you do get that as well. The Ryan-Zarya comp is, and has always been kind of effective. Has been for a few seasons now. But my point is, people aren't playing tanks properly. And this isn't necessarily a problem with the ladder. It's a problem with the functionality of the tanks that we have in the game at the moment. Now, I saw one video the other day suggesting they make Bastion into a tank. And you know, that may be something to look at in the future. But we need more tanks, people, and I don't just mean adding more tanks to the game. I mean, we need more people on tank who understand what it means to tank.
I play to win.
So what does it mean to tank? Tanking, using DPS's,
I still got you.
you know, a sort of comparison, you know, what a tank's job is to do is to go in and make space for the DPS. Once you can do that, then the DPS can go in and do their job. You work together, the healers heal the tanks, and the tanks keep the DPS alive with their shield, or, you know, in D.Va's case, defense matrix, little things like that. You know, you can activate defense matrix in front of a ally, and they will not take damage.
Raise my APM.
You know, that is what tanks do. It is not the tank's job to be another DPS. It sure as hell isn't the support's job to be another DPS. Like, really what's happening here is you have people who are treating all of these characters like they are DPS. And you see even the pros do this. They'll, you know, that's how we got backline goats. You know? Backdoor goats was, you know, all of these characters were treated like DPS, and they weren't tanking, or they weren't healing. You know? And technically that's a good thing, because in some situations it works. But for the overall balance of the game, it's unhealthy. You know? And then, you know, talking about team composition, right? People will go with the likes of D.Va Hog in some cases. You know, thinking we don't need a shield, we can do fine without one. Not realizing there'll be a massive ult battery for the enemy team. Because you're playing a tank like a DPS. This only happens, though, when the DPS aren't doing their job. This is when you get that one egotistical so-and-so who is like, I can play Sniper, or I can play, you know, Reaper. And then you've got a tank that's over here with freaking gold eliminations. And really, you know what it is? You know what it is, actually? The problem is that we need to balance tanks better. You know, D.Va has not received the buff in a long time. I think she's in dire need of some kind of change to make her a bit more viable. I mean, she can be a beast, but the reason she isn't is because everyone doesn't want to work around her. They pick other heroes for the wrong reasons. You know, they pick, you know, certain tanks, certain healers with the mentality that they're going to DPS with that healer or that tank. And that's a problem, because then you get the likes of people who are good at the game, people who are good tanks, people who are good healers. You know, some people can average 10k healing a game, and they're still in silver. And why? Because the tanks, you know, they get pulled down in rank by the DPS. And it happens to the supports as well. You know, and, you know, what exactly is involved in playing tank? Making space. It's as simple as that. Making space, and in addition, like I was talking to you about earlier, going behind an ally and doing your best to fend off and protect your allies. That right there, what I'm showing you there, is what peeling is. Yet people don't know how to peel. People don't know what peeling is, and I think the reason they don't is because they're so used to playing Call of Duty. They're so used to playing games where you just mindlessly go around killing people. You don't protect anyone. You know, Overwatch isn't a game where you can think about yourself and yourself alone. You have to be selfless. You have to think about your teammate. You have to think about where your teammates are. And if you're not with them, you need to be with them. Unless you're doing a flank system, you know, unless you're doing a flank strat. You know, in that kind of a system where you can go around and flank, you know, cool. You know, in that kind of a meta, that's an okay thing to do, but 9 times out of 10, you're gonna want to be with your team, because that is how you tank. That is how you get the most out of being tank. But tank isn't also like, it isn't about going in, dying, going in, dying. At that point, you're feeding. It is about going in, maybe securing a few kills if you can, and trying to make space for your team. Then the DPS can do their thing, and so on and so forth. But it's like, it's a circle of life kind of situation. You know? The tanks, they support the DPS. The DPS, they are supported by, you know, they support the support. The support the tanks. And so on and so forth. It's a chain that goes round and round and round. But this chain gets muddled up and, you know, can become less formulaic when people decide to make, you know, their own decisions, their own playstyles, and do their own thing, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But it's just, you have to understand the mechanics of the game, and that sometimes the mechanics of the game do not enable for certain playstyles, and certain playstyles are not going to be as effective in certain situations. So anyway, this has been roughly what I think of 222. I think we really need more tanks. You know, we need more people playing tank and learning to play tank properly, because then we can, you know, maybe make tweaks to tanks to make them more advertising to play. And then we can start getting some balanced games, because I'm tired. I'm so tired of going into games where I know how to play tank and nobody knows how to DPS or support properly. You know? Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.